When I left my body, it didn't hurt. For the first time in years, it didn't hurt. I know that sounds impossible, especially when I'm about to tell you how I literally died. But that moment, when my heart stopped beating and I floated above my own body, was the most peaceful I had ever felt in my entire life. Before we continue this story, write in the comments where you're watching from. It's incredible to see how far these messages of hope can reach. I never thought that my fight against my own body would lead me to death. But what happened when I closed my eyes changed everything I believed about life and about God. I'm going to reveal a truth that transformed the way I exist, a truth that came to me from the other side of death itself. My name is Emma Smith, and this is the story of how dying taught me how to live. Let me take you back to where it all began. Picture Cedar Falls, Iowa, a small town in the heart of the Midwest, where everyone knows everyone, and secrets are hard to keep. That's where I grew up, in a place where appearance mattered, where being different meant being talked about, where fitting in wasn't just desired, it was essential for survival. I was 8 years old when I first realized I was different. It was during a school play rehearsal, and all the girls were changing into their costumes. I remember looking around at the other girls and feeling this crushing realization that my body didn't look like theirs. They seemed so comfortable, so confident in their own skin. Meanwhile, I wanted to hide, to disappear, to somehow become invisible. That feeling never left me. As I grew up, it only got stronger. When other girls started developing, I watched with this mixture of envy and dread. I envied their confidence, their ease with themselves, but I dreaded my own changes, terrified that my body would betray me even more, make me even more different, even more unacceptable. High school was when the comparison really began to consume me. I would spend hours in front of the mirror, cataloging every flaw, every imperfection, every way I didn't measure up. I had notebooks where I would write down the measurements of models in magazines, diet plans I found online, exercises that promised to transform me into someone else entirely. My parents noticed I was becoming more withdrawn, but they attributed it to typical teenage behavior. How could I explain to them that I was suffocating under the weight of my own self-hatred? How could I tell them that every day felt like a battle against my own reflection? The first time I made myself throw up, I was 16 years old. It was 3 weeks before prom, and I had been trying on dresses with my mom. Nothing looked right. Everything made me feel exposed, ugly, wrong. I stood in that dressing room, looking at myself in that beautiful dress, and all I could see were flaws. That night, I ate dinner with my family like nothing had happened. I laughed at my dad's jokes, helped my mom with the dishes, did my homework. But inside, I was planning. I had read about bulimia online, and while part of me was horrified by what I was considering, another part was desperate enough to try anything. The first time was awful. The guilt, the shame, the physical discomfort, everything about it should have stopped me from ever doing it again. But there was something else there too. A sense of control, a feeling that I had found a secret weapon in my war against my own body. I became incredibly good at hiding it. I learned which bathrooms had the best sound insulation, which times of day were safest, how to clean up afterward so no one would know. I developed elaborate lies about stomach problems, stress, anything that could explain away the occasional slip-up. The secrecy was almost as consuming as the behavior itself. I was living a double life, the perfect daughter, student, and friend on the outside, and this desperate, self-destructive person on the inside. The energy it took to maintain that facade was exhausting, but I couldn't see any other way to live. College brought new challenges and new opportunities to hide. Away from my family's watchful eyes, the eating disorder flourished. I discovered diet pills, appetite suppressants, laxatives, anything that promised to help me achieve the control I craved. My dorm room became a pharmacy of self-destruction, hidden behind textbooks and normal college supplies. I would go days eating nothing but diet pills and water, then binge on everything I could find in the campus cafeteria, only to spend hours in the bathroom afterward, erasing what I had done. The cycle was vicious and relentless, but it felt necessary, like breathing. Meeting my future husband should have been a turning point. David was kind, loving, accepting, everything I thought I wanted. But even his love couldn't penetrate the armor of self-hatred I had built around myself. When he told me I was beautiful, I heard lies. When he said he loved me exactly as I was, I heard pity. Our relationship became another area where I had to perform. I learned to eat normally when we were together, to act like I had a healthy relationship with food and my body. I became an expert at ordering meals I had no intention of keeping down, at making excuses for bathroom trips, at covering the evidence of my secret life. The wedding planning was torture. Every dress fitting, every photo session, every moment that was supposed to be about celebrating our love became another opportunity for self-criticism. I look back at our wedding photos now, and I see a beautiful young woman, but at the time, all I could see were flaws that needed to be hidden or fixed. Marriage brought its own pressures. David wanted to share meals, to cook together, to enjoy food as a way of connecting. For someone like me, food had never been about nourishment or pleasure. It was about control, punishment, and shame. I had to learn to navigate this new reality while keeping my secret intact. The lies became more elaborate. I would tell David I had eaten lunch with coworkers when I hadn't eaten at all. I would claim to have stomach bugs that required bland diets and frequent bathroom trips. I would say I was trying new workout routines that explained my weight fluctuations and constant fatigue. The physical toll was becoming harder to hide. My hair was thinning, my skin was dull, my energy was constantly low. I was cold all the time, even in summer. My heart would race at random moments, and I would get dizzy standing up too quickly. But I attributed all of this to stress, to being busy, to anything other than what I was doing to myself. I started taking more pills, not just for weight loss, but for energy, for sleep, for the anxiety that was becoming overwhelming. My purse became a mobile pharmacy, and I was constantly calculating dosages, timing, effects. The pills promised to fix everything, my weight, my energy, my mood, but they only made everything worse. The night it happened, we had been married for 3 years. We were staying at a hotel for a work conference of David's, and I remember feeling particularly anxious about the social events we would have to attend. There would be cocktail parties with appetizers I couldn't control, dinners where I would have to eat in front of his colleagues, photos that would capture every angle I wanted to hide. I had been taking more pills than usual, appetite suppressants in the morning, energy boosters in the afternoon, sleeping pills at night to calm the racing thoughts. My body was running on empty, fueled only by chemicals and desperation. That evening, after a dinner where I had performed my usual routine of eating small bites and moving food around my plate, I felt particularly unwell. My heart was beating so fast I could feel it in my throat. My hands were shaking, and I felt this overwhelming sense of panic that I couldn't control. David was in the shower, and I was lying on the hotel bed, trying to convince myself that I just needed to sleep, that everything would be better in the morning. But my heart kept racing, and my breathing became more and more labored. I felt like there wasn't enough air in the room, like the walls were closing in on me. I got up to open the window, thinking fresh air might help, but the dizziness hit me so hard I had to grab the dresser to keep from falling. Looking in the mirror, I saw someone I barely recognized, pale, gaunt, hollow-eyed. For just a moment, the facade cracked, and I saw myself as I really was. A woman who had been slowly killing herself for over a decade. The panic attack, if that's what it was, intensified. My vision started to blur around the edges, and I felt this crushing weight on my chest. I wanted to call out to David, but I couldn't catch my breath long enough to make a sound. I managed to make it back to the bed, but every step felt like I was walking through water. I lay there, listening to the shower running, knowing David was just 20 feet away but feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. My heart was beating so irregularly now that I started to wonder if this was it. If years of abusing my body had finally caught up with me. The strangest part was that underneath the fear, there was almost a sense of relief. The exhaustion of maintaining the facade, of fighting this battle every single day, of hating myself so intensely for so long, the thought of it finally being over wasn't entirely unwelcome. Then it happened. My heart stuttered, skipped, and then stopped. Not completely, but the rhythm became so erratic that my body couldn't sustain consciousness. I felt myself sinking into the mattress, and then nothing. But nothing turned into something incredible. I found myself floating above the bed, looking down at my own body. It was the strangest sensation. I could see myself lying there, pale and still, but I felt completely detached from that physical form. For the first time in decades, I wasn't concerned about how my body looked. I wasn't sucking in my stomach or positioning myself to hide my flaws. I was simply free. David came out of the bathroom and saw me lying there. I watched him rush to my side, check my pulse, start shaking me gently and calling my name. I wanted to tell him I was okay, that I was right there watching, but I couldn't communicate with him. It was like watching a movie of my own life. But what struck me most was the absence of pain. The constant ache in my chest from the rapid heartbeat was gone. The hollow feeling in my stomach from chronic undereating was gone. The fog in my head from all the pills was gone. I felt clear, light, peaceful in a way I hadn't experienced since childhood. I began to rise, not by choice, but by some gentle force that was drawing me upward. As I moved away from the hotel room, I could see David below, frantically calling 911, performing CPR, trying desperately to bring me back. I felt love for him, but not the desperate, clingy love I had known in life. This was pure, uncomplicated love, free from all the fears and insecurities that had poisoned our relationship. The ascent continued, and the physical world grew smaller and smaller below me. I wasn't afraid. Fear seemed to be an emotion that belonged to my earthly body, not to whatever I was now. Instead, I felt curious, expectant, like I was about to discover something wonderful. And then I saw it, the light. But calling it light doesn't do it justice. It was like every warm summer morning, every golden sunset, every moment of perfect illumination I had ever experienced, all rolled into one and amplified beyond imagination. It wasn't just light that I could see. It was light that I could feel, that seemed to penetrate every part of my being. As I moved toward it, I became aware that I wasn't alone. There were beings of light surrounding me, and though they didn't have physical forms as I understood them, I somehow knew they were angels. They communicated without words, sending messages of welcome, of celebration, of pure joy at my arrival. The love radiating from these beings was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was completely unconditional, free from judgment or expectation. They didn't see the eating disorder, the self-hatred, the years of destructive behavior. They saw something else entirely, something precious and beautiful that I had never been able to see in myself. And then, I was in the presence of God. I can't adequately describe this encounter because human language simply doesn't have words for this level of love, acceptance, and understanding. Imagine being held by the most loving parent you can conceive of, then multiply that feeling by infinity. Every fear I had ever had about being unworthy, unlovable, or unacceptable simply evaporated in the face of this overwhelming acceptance. There was no throne, no judgment seat, no accounting of my sins and failures. Instead, there was just this presence of pure love that knew everything about me. Every secret, every shame, every moment of self-destruction, and loved me completely anyway. He began to show me my life, but not in the way I had always viewed it. Where I had seen a story of failure and disappointment, he showed me a story of a beloved daughter who had been wounded by a broken world. Where I had seen ugliness and inadequacy, he showed me unique beauty and gifts that I had never recognized. I watched myself as a child, full of joy and wonder, before the world taught me to hate my body. I saw the moment that innocence was lost, and I felt God's grief over the lies I had been told about my worth. I watched my teenage years, and instead of seeing the rebellion and self-destruction I remembered, I saw a young woman desperately searching for love and acceptance in all the wrong places. The eating disorder, which had dominated so much of my adult life, was shown to me in a completely different light. Instead of seeing it as a moral failing or a lack of willpower, I understood it as a symptom of a much deeper wound. The wound of believing I was not enough as I was. Every binge, every purge, every diet pill, every moment of self-hatred was revealed as a misguided attempt to earn something I already possessed: unconditional love and acceptance. I had been trying to sculpt myself into someone worthy of love, not realizing that I had been worthy all along. God showed me scenes of myself performing for others, smiling when I was dying inside, pretending to eat when I was starving myself, lying to the people who loved me most. But instead of condemnation, I felt his compassion for the prison I had built around myself. He showed me how much he had grieved every time I had looked in the mirror with hatred, every time I had punished my body, every time I had rejected the creation he had made with such love and intention. But the most profound moment came when he showed me true beauty, his definition of beauty. It wasn't about size or shape or meeting any earthly standard. True beauty radiated from acts of kindness, from moments of genuine connection, from the love that flows between souls. I saw myself through his eyes, and for the first time in my life, I understood that I was beautiful, not despite my flaws, but because I was his creation, made with infinite love and care. He showed me David's love for me, and how my inability to accept that love had wounded both of us. I saw all the times David had tried to tell me I was beautiful, all the times he had tried to love me as I was, and how my self-hatred had built walls between us. I understood that my eating disorder hadn't just hurt me, it had hurt everyone who loved me. The lesson became crystal clear. Every judgment I had made against myself, every harsh word, every act of self-punishment, every moment of believing I wasn't enough, had been destroying something precious that he had created. But love, acceptance, and grace could restore everything that judgment had damaged. Then the vision shifted, and I saw something that filled me with both wonder and urgency. I saw the earth, and it was burning, not with physical fire, but with spiritual darkness. I watched millions of people trapped in the same lies that had imprisoned me, destroying themselves in pursuit of impossible standards, chasing acceptance and love in all the wrong places. I saw teenagers developing eating disorders, adults hating their bodies, people of all ages measuring their worth by their appearance. I watched the cycle of self-destruction repeating itself generation after generation, and I felt God's heartbreak over each precious life being wasted in pursuit of something they already possessed. But then the vision changed, and I saw hope. I saw souls being lifted up, freed from the lies that had bound them. I watched people discovering their true worth, embracing their inherent beauty, living from a place of love rather than fear. I saw healing happening on a massive scale, restoration taking place in hearts and minds across the world. And then I understood why I was being shown this. I felt a pull, a calling, a mission that was both terrifying and exhilarating. I was being asked to return, to go back to that broken body and that difficult life, to share what I had learned here. I was being asked to be a messenger of hope to others who were trapped in the same prison I had escaped. The choice was presented to me clearly. I could stay in this place of perfect love and peace, or I could return to Earth with a mission to help others find the truth I had discovered. Every fiber of my being wanted to stay. The peace here was beyond description. The love was everything I had ever searched for. The thought of returning to pain, to limitation, to the struggles of earthly life was almost unbearable. But as I considered the choice, I began to see faces. People I had never met, but somehow knew I was meant to reach. I saw young women standing in front of mirrors with the same self-hatred I had carried. I saw people destroying their bodies in pursuit of acceptance. I saw the walking wounded, the secretly desperate, the ones who smiled on the outside while dying on the inside. I understood that my experience here, my journey through hell and back, hadn't been meaningless suffering. It had been preparation. Everything I had endured had equipped me to reach people who were walking the same dark path. My pain had purpose. It could become a bridge to help others find their way home. The decision, when it came, felt both impossible and inevitable. How do you choose to leave paradise? How do you willingly return to suffering when you've tasted perfect peace? But how do you turn your back on people who are desperately searching for what you've found? I looked one last time at the incredible beauty surrounding me, felt one last wave of that perfect love, and made my choice. I would return. I would go back to that broken body, that difficult marriage, that world full of lies and pain, because others needed to hear that there was another way to live. The return journey was unlike anything I can describe. It wasn't like falling. It was more like being gently lowered back into density, back into limitation, back into pain. I felt myself being compressed back into physical form, felt the weight of flesh and bone settling around my spirit like a heavy coat. The first sensation was pain. My chest felt like it was being crushed, My heart was beating erratically, and every breath was a struggle. After the effortless existence I had just experienced, being trapped in a physical body felt suffocating and wrong. But even worse than the physical pain was the emotional weight that came flooding back. All the fears, insecurities, and self-hatred that had been absent during my time in the light came crashing back like a tidal wave. For a moment, I almost regretted my choice to return. Then I heard David's voice, frantic and desperate, calling my name. I felt his hands on my face, his tears falling on my skin. The paramedics had arrived and were working to stabilize my heart rhythm. Through it all, David was there, holding my hand, refusing to let go. When I finally opened my eyes and looked into his face, I saw something I had never allowed myself to see before. Pure, uncomplicated love. Not love conditional on my appearance or my behavior, but love for the soul he had somehow recognized even when I couldn't see it myself. "Emma," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You came back." And in that moment, I understood that I hadn't just come back to fulfill a mission to strangers. I had come back to learn how to receive the love that had always been right in front of me, to heal the relationship that my self-hatred had damaged, to finally allow myself to be loved as I was. The days and weeks that followed were unlike anything I had ever experienced. The eating disorder that had controlled my life for over a decade simply ended. Not through willpower or therapy or medication, but through the complete transformation of how I saw myself. When you truly understand that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, when you've experienced the love God has for you in your current form, the compulsion to change or punish your body loses all its power. I could no longer look in the mirror and see flaws because I had seen myself through his eyes. I could no longer hate what he had created with such love and intention. The physical healing was remarkable, but secondary to the spiritual transformation. My heart rhythm stabilized, my energy returned, my hair grew back thick and healthy. But more importantly, the constant chatter of self-criticism in my head went silent. The voice that had told me I wasn't enough, that I needed to be different, that I was unlovable, that voice was replaced by the memory of perfect acceptance. David and I had to learn how to be married all over again. For the first time in our relationship, I was fully present, fully authentic, fully available to receive his love. I stopped performing and started being. I stopped hiding and started sharing. I stopped trying to be someone else and started embracing who I had always been. The mission I had accepted became the driving force of my new life. I began sharing my story, first with close friends, then with larger audiences. Every time I spoke about my experience, I watched faces light up with recognition and hope. People who had been trapped in their own prisons of self-hatred began to see a way out. I started working with people struggling with eating disorders, body dysmorphia, and self-esteem issues. But my message wasn't about recovery techniques or therapy strategies. It was about identity, about understanding who we really are beneath all the lies we've believed about ourselves. The impact has been beyond anything I could have imagined. I've received letters from teenagers who decided not to start down the path of self-destruction after hearing my story. I've spoken with adults who have struggled for decades and finally found freedom. I've watched marriages heal as people learn to receive love instead of constantly earning it. But perhaps the most profound change has been in my own daily experience of life. I wake up each morning not with dread about facing another day of battling my reflection, but with excitement about the opportunities to love and serve. Food has become nourishment and pleasure rather than enemy and punishment. My body has become a vessel for purpose rather than a source of shame. I still remember every detail of my time on the other side. The memory of that perfect love sustains me through difficult days and reminds me constantly of who I really am. When the world tries to tell me I'm not enough, I remember being held in the arms of infinite acceptance. When others struggle to see their worth, I can point them toward the same source of truth that set me free. The woman who died that night in the hotel room was trapped, desperate, and slowly destroying herself in pursuit of an impossible standard. The woman who returned is free, purposeful, and completely at peace with the body and life she's been given. The difference isn't in my circumstances. It's in my understanding of my identity. You don't have to die to access this truth. You don't have to wait until you're at the breaking point to discover that you're already loved, already valuable, already enough. The same God who showed me such overwhelming acceptance is looking at you right now with that same perfect love. The lies that tell you you're not enough, that you need to change to be worthy of love, that your value depends on your appearance or achievements. These are the very lies that nearly killed me. But they don't have to have the final word in your story. Today, right now, in whatever body you're in, with whatever struggles you're facing, you are loved beyond measure. You are valuable simply because you exist. You are enough, not because of what you do or how you look, but because of who you are, a precious creation made with infinite love and intention. Don't wait another day to start living from this truth. Don't spend another moment judging yourself, punishing yourself, or trying to earn something you already have. The love you're searching for is already yours. The acceptance you're working toward is already given. The worth you're trying to achieve is already established. If this message spoke to you, share this video. Maybe it's exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And remember, you don't need to change to be loved. You're already loved exactly as you are right now. The pain you're carrying, the shame you're hiding, the standards you're chasing, none of it defines you. You are so much more than you know, so much more valuable than you believe, and so much more loved than you could ever imagine. This is my gift to you from the other side of death. The truth that can set you free while you're still alive to enjoy that freedom. You are enough. You have always been enough. And you will always be enough, no matter what anyone, including yourself, tries to tell you otherwise.